There is a man at your job. Let us call him David. David has been with the company 11 years. He is good at his job. He knows it. His manager knows it. Last year, when the restructuring came, David survived it. He felt safe. 6 months later, David was gone. Not fired, not laid off, quietly removed. And the moment it started, the actual moment the decision was made, was not in a performance review. It was not in a calibration meeting. It was not even in a conversation with his manager. It was the afternoon David said the wrong thing to the wrong person, and that person wrote it down. That document became part of David's HR file, and once something is in your HR file, the rules of the game change in ways nobody explains to you on the way in. By the end of this video, you are going to understand what an HR file actually is. Not the version HR describes during onboarding, but the version that gets reviewed when your name comes up in a room you are not in. And once you understand what goes into it, you will never speak in a workplace context the same way again. Let us start with what most people believe. Most people believe that HR is a neutral record-keeping function, that their file contains their contract, their annual reviews, maybe a training certificate or two, that it sits quietly in a drawer and only gets opened if something serious happens. That belief is not wrong, it's just incomplete in a way that costs people. Here's what the file actually contains. Every formal complaint you have made. Every formal complaint made about you, even the ones that were investigated and closed. Every documented conversation your manager had with HR about your performance, including informal check-ins that were never shared with you. Every email that was flagged and forwarded. Every comment made during a calibration meeting where your name came up. And, depending on the company, something else. Notes. Not official notes, not signed notes, but written records of conversations HR was told about secondhand. A manager mentions in passing that an employee said something concerning in a team meeting. That mention gets logged, not as an incident, not as a complaint, as a note. There is no policy that tells you this is happening. There is no notification. There is no right of reply. That note sits in a file with your name on it, and it waits. Here's the part nobody warns you about. The HR file is not reviewed continuously. It's reviewed at a specific moment when your name comes up for something. A promotion, a restructuring, a complaint, a headcount reduction. When that moment arrives, someone opens the file and reads it start to finish, and they're not reading it the way you would read it, as a collection of isolated incidents. They're reading it as a pattern. One note means nothing. 2 notes about similar behavior start to form a picture. 3 notes, and the picture has a name. Think about what that means for how David's file was read. David had been with the company 11 years. In that time, he had pushed back on a decision in a staff meeting and said, in a moment of frustration, that the new process was designed by people who had never done the job. His manager laughed. The moment passed. 2 years later, David was in a town hall and asked, in front of the division head, why a certain restructuring decision had been made without input from the teams it affected. It was a legitimate question. He asked it calmly. The division head gave a political answer. The moment passed. 8 months after that, David expressed to an HR business partner, in what he believed was a confidential conversation, that he felt the promotion process lacked transparency. 3 moments, 3 separate years, 3 different contexts. In David's mind, none of those moments were connected. He was doing what engaged employees are supposed to do, asking questions, raising concerns, participating. In David's HR file, those 3 moments read as a pattern. Employee consistently challenges institutional decisions in public forums and has expressed distrust of leadership structures.
That is not a disciplinary finding. It is a characterization, and characterizations shape decisions. When David's name came up in the restructuring review, the file was opened, the characterization was read, and the question, consciously or not, became, is this the person we want to carry forward? David did not lose his job because of his performance. He lost it because of his file. Now here is what we call this. The HR file is not a neutral record. It is a risk profile. Every organization that has an HR function is, simultaneously, running an ongoing risk assessment of its workforce. Not aggressively, not maliciously, systematically. The file is the instrument of that assessment. It exists to answer one question when it matters. Does this person represent a risk to the organization? That question can be triggered by a promotion, a complaint, a restructuring, or a legal matter. When it is triggered, the file speaks for you, in your absence, in a room you will never be in, using language you never agreed to. The risk profile is the layer underneath the employment relationship that most employees never see and never think about until the moment it becomes relevant, at which point it is too late to change what is already written. Here is what this means practically. Every workplace conversation has two registers. The first register is the one you are aware of. You are expressing a concern. You are asking a question. You are advocating for your team. You are being honest with HR because the door is closed and they told you it was confidential. The second register is the one being recorded, not necessarily word for word, but in terms of what it signals about you as a risk category. There is a specific set of phrases and behaviors that reliably move the needle on that risk assessment, not because the phrases are wrong, not because the concerns are illegitimate, but because the system reads them as signals. Challenging a decision made above your level in a public setting, recorded. Expressing distrust of a process to someone whose job is to protect the process, recorded. Asking questions about pay, promotion criteria, or how decisions are made, recorded. Making a complaint, even a resolved one, recorded. Naming a colleague's behavior in any formal or semi-formal context, recorded. None of these things are misconduct. None of them should harm your career. In an organization that functioned the way the handbook says it does, none of them would. But you are not in that organization. You are in the one that exists. And in the one that exists, the HR file is a parallel document running alongside your employment. It does not follow the rules you were told. It follows different rules, and the first rule is that you never see it. You did everything right. You raised concerns through the proper channels. You asked honest questions. You tried to improve the organization. You trusted that HR was there to help. You spoke up when you had something to say. The system was not built for that version of you. It was built for a different game, with different rules, and you were never handed the map. Here is what the map actually says. Your HR file is being written right now, not because you have done anything wrong, because the file is always being written. The question is not whether it exists. The question is what it says about you, and whether what it says is the version of you that gets selected forward when your name comes up. The employees who understand this do not go silent. They do not stop asking questions or stop advocating for their teams, but they become deliberate about register. They know the difference between a conversation that is relationship level and a conversation that is system level. They know which concerns are worth raising and in what format. They know that the closed-door conversation with HR is never fully closed. And they build their professional record, not just their file, with the same care they bring to their actual work. That is corporate GPS, the map they never handed you.